My mother didn't care that there was a blizzard outside when she pointed at my 2-week-old daughter and my winter suit. "Pack your bags and get out," she continued, giving me a direct look. "Your brother's family is more important, so make way for them." Everyone believed that I would shatter and crawl away into the very cold night, utterly ruined. As they imagined themselves living opulently in what they believed to be my mother's expansive land, my entitled golden boy brother and his haughty bride were already grinning. They even began packing my baby's belongings into cardboard boxes. However, they committed one deadly error. They couldn't remember who had really paid for the property. When they were shouting into the security camera while stuck outside in the bitter cold at midnight, I responded over the intercom with precisely 4 words. "My mother's phone fell on the floor. Comment on the city you're viewing from as you follow my journey through to the very finish. Melissa is my name." I was sitting in the living room of a lovely suburban house, rocking my 2-week-old daughter Lily to sleep on the coldest night of December. I am 34 years old. Before the front door was abruptly pushed wide, the home was silent except for the cozy warmth of the fireplace. Without knocking, my mother Eleanor strode in with my younger brother Leo and his pregnant wife Vanessa at her sides. Eleanor delivered a tragic bombshell at the doorway before I could even get up to say hello. Her baby granddaughter escaped her gaze. Her eyes were icy. "Lowe's consulting business just collapsed, Melissa," she declared, her tone stern and demanding. "Vanessa is expecting a second child, and in order to stabilize their lives, they urgently need a large house. By tomorrow night, I need you to get your belongings and leave. For you and Lily, I've already located a little dilapidated studio apartment across town. It's time to put the family line first and quit being self-centered." Vanessa started exploring my living room as like she already owned it, while Leo stood behind her with a smug, self-satisfied grin on his face. They genuinely thought that in order to satiate their own insatiable greed, they could throw a helpless newborn and a lone mother out into a fierce winter blizzard. They believed that I was helpless, vulnerable, and totally at their mercy. However, they were completely unaware of what was about to happen. I had spent my entire 34-year life as the unseen, diligent daughter, while our mother treated Leo like royalty. Eleanor was always there to catch him, dusting him off and attributing his failures to bad luck or dishonest partners. Regardless of how many times he damaged his life with bad investments, unsuccessful ventures, or careless spending. On the other hand, I was supposed to be the quiet rock of strength, putting in 80-hour work weeks at my corporate job and moving up the ladder all by myself without ever asking for help. We were standing in a lovely suburban home that wasn't some old ancestral family property that had been passed down through the generations. Eleanor and Leo loved to tell their wealthy friends that it was a symbol of the proud Whittaker family tradition, entirely erasing the enormous sacrifices I had made to secure it, even though they always pretended it was. Due to her own careless credit card debt and a slew of horrible loans she co-signed for Leo's unsuccessful restaurant business, Eleanor was in complete financial devastation 5 years ago. She had come to me on her knees pleading for help, just days before the bank was about to foreclose on her life. I took out a large primary mortgage in my own name, used every penny of my hard-earned life savings, and completely removed her name from the danger of public humiliation. And yet here they were, altering history to suit their avarice. Vanessa moved forward and sat heavily on my silk sofa, her speech oozing with a poisonous mixture of artificial sympathy. She handed a nice rental brochure for a notoriously dilapidated neighborhood across the kitchen island and remarked, "We really do know this is difficult for you. Melissa, having a newborn by yourself is a lot, but you have to look at the wider picture. Losing your spouse last year was a tragedy. Leo needs to show his new investors that he is successful, and a small flat won't cut it." Leo stepped forward, losing the false warmth completely as his soft jaw hardened. As he issued his final warning, his eyes narrowed violently. "Mom will cut you off from the family completely if you don't comply with her, and leave the property by tomorrow night. We'll make sure you're totally isolated, and you won't receive any money from the family estate." As my 2-week-old daughter slept in my arms, I saw the 3 of them, cozy in the warmth I had paid for, menacing me. They expected me to shout, cry, or beg, but instead I felt a strange calmness. I just nodded, trying to cover up the shine in my eyes by staring at the ground. "I see," I muttered, purposefully keeping my voice weak and shaky. They were obviously duped into thinking I was fully terrified and defeated by this. Confident that they had won, they exchanged a smug, triumphant look. The home was completely still, as the heavy front door snapped shut and the muffled sound of Leo's sports automobile faded down the driveway. For a little period, I stood motionless and listened to Lily's calm, steady breathing in her bassinet. My hands remained solid, despite the ridiculous subtext of all their warnings. I avoided the typical filing cabinets and knelt by the flooring underneath the bulky mahogany desk as I made my way down the corridor into my personal home office. I took out a sturdy, fireproof lockbox, a safe haven that contained the actual dynamics of our family. The lid opened with a pleasing click. The formal, legally certified property deed and the bank mortgage closure documentation were contained in a thick manila folder that was securely tucked away beneath sentimental mementos and old family photos. I opened it and traced the neat, sharp legal print with my eyes. The paperwork clearly demonstrated that this residence was bought 5 years ago in my name alone. My mum never owned anything. She was only residing here by my grace as a guest. I grabbed my phone and called Arthur, my real estate lawyer, outlining the specifics of the hostile takeover my family was planning. Arthur confirmed that my legal shield was total, with a quiet whistle over the line. "Melissa, they have no legal standing. The law is completely on your side if you want them gone." I told him to get the required legal notices ready right now. Officially, the trap was set. The winter storm peaked the following evening, screaming loudly against the glass windows. Just then, my mother's car and a huge moving truck rumbled up the snow-covered driveway. With a loud chuckle, Leo, Vanessa, and Eleanor stormed through the front door, allowing the chilly air to fill the foyer. They didn't even bother to remove their footwear. They started strolling throughout the house right away, carelessly dumping Lily's exquisitely organized baby goods into inexpensive cardboard boxes. While Leo grinned at me and held open a rubbish bag for my clothes, Vanessa was already telling the movers where to put her pricey furnishings. I stood close to the kitchen island, cradling Lily in a warm blanket against my chest. I turned to face my mother, who was completely preoccupied with ensuring her golden boy was comfortable and would not look at me. I said in a totally composed, non-angry voice, "I need to go pick up some final legal documents and clear out some personal things. To keep Lily warm while you guys unpack, I'll take her to a nearby motel." Leo dismissively waved his hand, happy that I was backing off without a fight. However, the trap officially closed as soon as I backed my SUV out of the driveway. Arthur and a skilled locksmith staff were waiting just down the street when I made quick arrangements with them. They showed up at the residence with local authorities just minutes after I left. The moving team was fired with a formal legal notice, the locks were altered, and the security codes were entirely rebuilt. They were absolutely confined, but they were unaware of it. After a happy meal at a fancy restaurant, Eleanor, Leo, and Vanessa returned to the property an hour later, totally unaware of what was ahead. As they approached the huge front porch, shivering in the bitter cold, the blizzard was howling and pouring thick sheets of snow across the driveway. Leo extended his hand to enter his standard code onto the digital keypad, but the lock stayed obstinately dark, and a loud error beep reverberated through the chilly air. Eleanor pulled out her phone to call the main security intercom system as she started pounding her fists against the heavy oak wood in a panic. I watched their pale, terrified faces freeze through the high-definition video stream as I quietly launched the security app on my tablet in my cozy hotel room. When I hit the chat button, the sound of the roaring wind on their end was broken by the static. Eleanor let out a scream into the microphone, her voice trembling with sheer rage. "Melissa, please open this door immediately. What does this silly game mean? Come on down here and let us in." I uttered precisely 4 words into the intercom, while leaning back against the luxurious hotel cushions and staring at her shaking image on my computer. "This house is mine." There was an instantaneous psychological change. Eleanor's phone literally slipped from her icy grasp and hit the frozen ground in sheer, unadulterated shock as the cold truth struck her, draining the smug attitude from her face. Leo and Vanessa's life of phony luxury collapsed overnight, leaving them with little legal remedy and totally buried under their own enormous debts.